I'm finally out running some errands. I've been doing a little bit of wedding planning here and there, a little bit of dress shopping with some different family members, and then I was like, oh, most of it I can probably push off. We still have a lot of time. We're about 2 weeks away from the 6-month mark, but then I'm like, you know what? Those 6 months are gonna go by really fast, and so I'm out shopping today, getting little things like makeup, perfume. We might go by Goodwill, see what other little trinkets I can find. The majority of like all the decorations and everything we already have, which is awesome. But it's story time first. Oh my gosh. So I was I was talking to a friend last night, and I told her I was thinking about you. So going back, she has had some crazy experiences, and very, very spiritual, very scary things. A lot of very dark things present around her home, since the time she was a child, around her family's home. There was a lot, whether it was an experience of family members and people invading their property, or a little bit that some family members kind of dabbled in. There was a lot of contact with the spiritual realm and the very dark side. And so she has seen and just been really chased by so many things. She told me she has had dark figures that would follow her around the house, that she had, she would lay in bed and she would have hands, old, like the hands of an old woman, come up over the side of her bed and touch her. And there was even one family member that she said multiple different family members and friends over the years gave the exact same story, and none of them ever told each other because they thought, oh, I'm not going to tell anybody, I'm gonna sound crazy. But they all would eventually, they came out and they all had the same experience at separate times. She said you only on one side of the bed, you would lay down and you would feel something touching your leg, like you would feel a cold hand touching your leg, but it was a very tender like patting. And I told her, when she told me that, I said, that sounds almost like palpation, like the way I would touch a patient and feel to like assess. And she goes, the person who died in that house was a doctor. And I was like, holy shit, oh my gosh. So anyway, a lot of experiences like that, just very, very, very real things, very scary things. And I admire her so much for the way she can cope these days, because I know if I had that experience, I could not be in a room alone. I couldn't turn the lights off. Like, I would be terrified. So she's an incredible woman. But anyway, so she's had these experiences. She said that this has only happened, it happened throughout her life, but it really only happened when she was around her family, or at least in the state and the areas that her family was in. Once she moved out of state, and she lived by herself in a state where none of her family had lived. She had no connections. She really didn't experience it anymore. It happened like twice, and she's lived in that state for years. And I was telling her, I was thinking about her because I had such a shocking dream the other night. I got to a point where it's so funny to me, because like, I swear my life is made up of either feeling like a horrid person when I'm around people who are like super religious and super conservative, because I feel like I'm this person who's fallen away and I'm not, the person I was, because I'm just not quite as, not strict, but whatever that word would be. But yet then I'm around anybody else who is not so much into having faith and being conservative and things like that. And I'm made fun of for being the goody-goody who's ignorant and judgmental and all of these things. So I'm like, I can't win. Oh my gosh. But so it's so funny because people think like, oh, you're so religious, you're so this and that and the other thing. That it wouldn't be weird for me to have one of these experiences, but it was, because I don't have those. Like my relationship, and I'm so glad that there are some saints too that have gone through this. Everybody knows of Mother Teresa, and the amount of charity and faithfulness and work for God that she did in her life She has letters that say just over and over and over how dark and how alone she felt, and sometimes she wasn't even sure if God existed. And sometimes I feel like I can really relate to that. I feel like so much of my relationship with God is the loyalty end of a relationship, you know, like when you're in that period with your husband, your wife, your, you know, whoever, you go through those cycles of being completely in love in the honeymoon phase, like they're all you can think about and talk about. And then there's times where you're like, I love you so much, but it's normal, it's routine, it feels, you know, whatever. And then there's times where you're like, I can't stand you, I can't look at you, everything you do bothers me, but you still love them, you still show up for them. I feel like that so much in my relationship with God, where I so often feel so distant. I don't know what to say, I don't know how to pray. You know, I'll go to church and I go, hey God, what's up? I got nothing. Like, I can't think of anything. Whereas years ago, I was so incredibly on fire, and I never had enough to say to God, and I wanted to pray all the time and read all the time, and it just, now it's more so that struggle phase of I'm always going to be here, I'm always going to follow you, I'm always going to show up, but a lot of times I'm really angry with you, or things don't make sense, or I just feel distant, to where it's that, hey, I'm here, I don't really have anything else to say. So anyway, I've been struggling with that more, and it goes back and forth, up and down, back and forth. It's been for at least 6-7 years now, where it's just a constant fight to keep that love alive. And I hit a point the other night, I was visiting home, and I was just like scrolling through videos on Facebook and YouTube, and I hit a point where I was like, oh my gosh, I have got to get back. I have got to get a routine. I have got to start reading my Bible every day, doing devotions every day, praying every day, even if it's 5 minutes. Like, I've got to do something. This has got to be the focus of my life, even if I don't feel it. And I have to remember that even as a kid, I mean, some of the awful things I had gone through, I would say, I forgive you, or I make this choice to be happy, or to pray, or, you know, things like that. And I would tell myself, you don't have to feel it, you just have to do it, and then the feelings will come later. And I've kind of lost that, and I have to remind myself, like, you have to pray, you have to sit down and talk to God every day, you have to do these things, even if you don't feel it, and even if it doesn't give you all the warm fuzzy feelings, it just, those feelings will come. That night when I just like, and I started crying, and just that night when I had that thought, and I like made the decision, I laid down and I actually started just praying, and I was like, just take everything, just, you know what I'm going through, you know how distant I feel from you, you know, and just take it all. I don't know what you want to do with it, but just take it. That night I had a dream, and I don't remember any of my dreams. Like, I would say I had no dreams the rest of the time I was visiting home. That night I had a dream. I was with one of our old friends who is an incredibly spiritual woman, and in a very balanced sense. Like, she's a normal spiritual, not like a head in the clouds kind of faithful person. And she has had many of those same experiences as my friend, of seeing horrible things, experiencing not possession, but that it's no doubt that demons, that Satan, that evil angels are real. And it's because her and her family do so much. They're like something you would see out of a movie, to where the amount of charity that they do, the amount of allowing people to just come into their home and pray and experience retreats and experience healing. And even in the time of crisis, like if they were caught in Chernobyl, and if we were ever to experience a huge tragedy like that again, you could walk up to their door and they'd say, come in, it doesn't matter who you are. So they're very, very saintly people. And that's why they've, I'm sure, experienced all these things. They are under attack. Anyway, I had a dream that I was with her, and I don't know where we were, but we were just with a crowd of people. It was like at a, I don't know, some sort of event. There was a lot of people standing around, and it was a nice place. And I look into the corner, and there's a little girl. She's probably like 8, 9 years old. Coal black eyes. If anybody has watched Supernatural, you know what I'm talking about, where they blink and their eyes go black, and it's a demon. And I go, oh my gosh, and I start calling her name, and I'm like, look at this girl, you have to do something, and she starts just praying and saying, you know, you're not welcome here. You're not allowed in this space. You are not allowed here. I cast you out. I reject you in Jesus' name. You are not welcome here. We are safe because of him. Just all these things, speaking the safety in the presence of God and saying basically, fuck you. You are not allowed here. And it wouldn't work. I started doing it and I realized like this girl was after me. I started saying all those things and I, for some reason, whenever I have dreams, whether it's like I'm getting attacked by an animal or something, it's always right here. And like I'm holding whatever it is by the neck or by the shoulders and just barely keeping it away from me. And it was that same thing. And I'm speaking these words and they're just coming out and I'm just like, claiming that I don't want you here. I don't accept you. You're not welcome in my life, in my soul. And she went away and it worked. But she kept coming back no matter what I did. Like this little girl would stand there and then blink again and the demon was back. And the eyes were black again. And I would do it again and she would go away again. And then eventually I'm running around and I'm trying to hide or trying to grab help. I think one of my brothers was in the dream. Eventually I like had a weapon and I slashed across the eyes of this thing, and then I'm like slashing legs and abdomen, and I'm like doing all these things like mutilating this creature, and it would still come back. And I remember one of the times sitting there just watching, and I'm like, it's gonna come back, it's gonna come back, it's gonna come back. And I just couldn't get away. And what freaking sucked was that this was one of those dreams where you wake up, like, I think I woke up probably 5 or 6 times. Every time I went back to sleep, I even turned on Friends. I was like, I needed something to distract me, something funny. Every time I went back to sleep, the dream picked up right where it left off. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, and I do not experience things like that. I'm the person who will say, I don't hear the voice of God. I don't experience clear signs from him. When I pray for a sign, I have to be like, God, you have to make this stupidly obvious, because I do not do the, interpret what I'm trying to tell you kind of thing. So after this dream, I was like, holy shit. This only happened after I made that decision to pursue God. And then, so crazy part about this and why I'm telling this story, which I've now been going on for 12 minutes about. So I'm talking to my friend about this last night, and I told her, I'm like, I thought about you because you've experienced things like that in real life. And I, as a little girl, as an adult, as like your whole life, and I cannot picture how you function, how you are so kind and sweet and funny and go about your days just like anybody else. And so we're talking about this, and she's saying how when it happens, like she's not so much a spiritual person. She used to be, and she still really enjoys certain aspects of spirituality, but there's nothing like on the daily in her life. But when stuff like that has happened, she's started picturing light, just a huge beam of light going from every corner of wherever she lives, throughout her house, and just illuminating everything. And then angels, and she specifically said archangels, being in the corners of every room. And I told her, I was like, that's literally real. That's Saint Michael is the protector. He is the Prince of Peace. He is the angel that is against the Prince of Evil. Like, he is the protector of all the angels. And I told her, I was like, there's literally a prayer, a Saint Michael prayer that says, cast demons into hell, cast Satan into hell, all of those that roam throughout the earth trying to seek out souls. And I was like, that's crazy that that's what you would go to just as your own personal comfort. And so then we're talking about prayer, and we're talking about faith, and basically saying that none of this stuff that we dream, that she has seen, these experiences where we can tell, it's like, oh, Satan is trying to come after your soul and trying to get a grip on you. We're just like, basically, again, sorry for my language, but fuck off. You're not allowed here. You're not allowed in my life. And then even after we ended our conversation, I got back on the phone with her, and I was like, I never, ever ask to pray with people. For me, that's just something that feels very awkward. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to say it. And I'm like, I don't know how to pray in my own personal life. I start to talk to God, and I'm just like, hi, I don't know what to say. But I told her, I was like, I had such a strong desire to ask to pray with you. And not just because I pray for her all the time, but to like actually speak words over her and speak words about her to her face, in her ears, like to where she could hear it and it was out loud. I never ever like feel that, or much less consider even asking somebody to do that. And what was crazy is she goes, oh my gosh, I would have loved that. Like, that would have been amazing. And I'm like, oh, damn, really? I thought she was going to be like, oh, that's so nice, but no. So we then roll into like talking about prayer and just the light of these situations. Today, she texts me and says that after, again, like having moved to another state and not experiencing these things, like maybe once or twice in over the course of years, last night, something was in her apartment again. She could see it and her cats were chasing it around. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's not like it came about because we invited this presence in or said like, oh, you know, there was no sort of invitation as to that is welcome. It was all, we were talking about rejecting that and rejecting Satan. And then this thing comes up. And then for me today, of course, it's like, it's the most mild thing, but once I piece it all together, I'm just like, holy shit. I wake up, I got hacked. My email was completely spammed. My phone had been cut off. Which is like a mild thing. It's like, oh, you got hacked, you know, whatever. But I was like, normally something like that would piss me off and stress me out so bad because I had just been given a new job offer and was waiting for that email to come through. So it was inhibiting like me moving forward with a job, with a brand new opportunity. It was inhibiting my ability to contact her, to contact my family. It was inhibiting my ability. We have engagement photos planned this weekend, so to be able to contact that person, to do wedding planning, to access internet, to, you know, it then put my mind into a frenzy of, all right, I need to protect my finances. I need to figure out my bank logins. I need to do all this stuff. And so it inhibited my time to spend with Steve, because then I had to go figure out how to get this phone fixed and get all my passwords fixed and all these different things. And then on my way home, I totally forgot Steve was picking up an extra shift today and he was working at a different time. But I was going to be able to get home just in time to give him a kiss goodbye. It's not like I wanted to spend a whole bunch of time. I mean, I did want to spend time, but my goal at that moment was just to be able to kiss him goodbye, not spend hours and hours of time and all this stuff. That couldn't even happen, because then all of a sudden a road where there is never traffic, never road work, never anything. It's like the fastest road to get home. There was so much going on that I was hitting my brakes constantly and kept coming to a dead stop. And I'm like, this never happens. So I'm not even allowed to go home and give Steve a kiss before he goes to work. And I texted her so fast and I was like, dude, we are being attacked. We are under attack. You had that pop up last night. I had all this stuff pop up today because we so outwardly and so happily spoke about rejecting Satan and bringing in the good and bringing God into our lives. And she felt so bad. She was like, we shouldn't have even talked about anything. I'm so sorry. And I was like, no. Once I put these puzzle pieces together, and maybe I'm crazy, maybe this is all coincidence, but if it is what this is, it kind of made me laugh. I was like, are you serious? Are you kidding me? You little motherfucker. Like, you think that you're going to take us down that easily. You think that you can throw a couple things our way, throw some, hindrances in our days, her, after everything she's seen, throw one little thing her way, and you think we're going to crack that easily. Oh, fuck that. I am so sorry. But no, that has made me even more determined today to pursue this even more. I tried to procrastinate again. I was like, I'll do my Bible reading tonight. And I'm like, no, out of everything I'm doing today, I'm going to Starbucks first. I'm doing that reading first. Music, put on praise and worship music. I blessed my house, put holy water everywhere, prayed over my house, said, you are not welcome here. Everything in this space belongs to God. Steve and I belong to God. Everything in our interactions belongs to Him. Nothing is coming between us, between Him, between our strength and our mind and our rest and our work. Like, nothing. And so it just, again, it's kind of making me smile. It's funny. He is so freaking pathetic that he thinks that that's going to take us down, that that's going to make us scared and then go, okay, we won't talk about anything. We won't, speak out any rejection. We won't say anything like that because then we'll be left alone. Oh, sweetheart, please. And again, I've just been that personality since I was little. I'm like, you try to do something against me. You try to manipulate me in any way or tell me what I can't do. And I'm going to go, watch me bite my ass. Like, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry for the language throughout this video, but this is genuine. And this is the way I talk when I pray. And I even watched a video today that said, when you're a new believer, when you're new to praying, when you're new to any sort of routine or interaction with God, like, how do you do that? And the guy said, he goes, don't make it fancy. Be yourself. Be who you are with God. He knows every sort of modern slang. He knows the way you speak. He knows the way you think as a personality. And so I don't know how to fancily, pray or get rid of Satan or anything. Basically, it's a lot of profanity and saying fuck out of my life. So, but this was crazy today to see him in action. And again, like, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe none of this is real and it's all just coincidence. But the fact that just one conversation can piss him off so badly that he then is going to put us under attack and think we're going to fall for it is so comically pathetic. So I just had to share that. Like, this has been just at me all day. Ever since I figured this out, I was like, oh my gosh! And I had to text my friend, and I called my mom, and she hasn't answered the phone. I've called her twice because she will understand this. And I even told it to Steve, but he's like, okay, I think you're going a little over the top. But I'm like bursting at the seams because I can't believe how petty and how pathetic and desperate Satan can be, and like how this is playing out. It's crazy. But then it has made every single thing that's happened comical. Even something that would piss me off, I start to get angry, and then I'm like, oh, no, this is him again. He's trying to get me somewhere else because I wouldn't fall for the last thing. So fuck that. No, I am not getting mad. I'm gonna have a good day. It's gorgeous out. I'm wedding planning. I'm gonna have fun. It's gonna be great. And you are not taking any of that away from me. And I feel like a valley girl because I keep talking like this. But anyway, now I'm super high strung and I'm gonna go get more coffee. But gonna get coffee, gonna do my Bible reading so I can go, wedding plan, shop, all those fun things. And we're not gonna let him take lead.